Your employees can't step up until you step back. It's sometimes painful to point out that you're not a good manager. Yes, you may own the business. Yes, you started the business. Yes, you're a great entrepreneur, but because you're a great entrepreneur, your skill set is diametrically opposed to what it takes to be a good manager.
Welcome to Personal Finance Cat, where I share my personal take on personal finance. Hey, Cary, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Handy.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
sounds good. Likewise. As the CEO for the CFO Consulting LLC company, can you tell us what inspired you to start that company?
It goes back to my early days, I think, in accounting. I worked for one of the big 8 accounting firms, and I worked for a couple of big Fortune 500 companies, but then I also worked for a few small to medium-sized businesses. And what I discovered was that these small business owners didn't know how to read a financial statement. They really, I mean, they knew what net income was, they saw what's that cash look, but they didn't really know, they didn't understand how to interpret them to say, this is what's going on with your business, your financial strength, your liquidity, your profitability, your efficiency, none of that. So, and because they didn't know how to interpret the financial statements were saying to them, they weren't able to make really good business decisions. And, so I went about trying to educate them, not trying, I was actually educating them. And it kind of turned into helping several business owners at once. Eventually, it's like, okay, I want to hire you. You help me with my financial statements, developed dashboards to help them get them weekly actionable financial data. And in the process of all that, I also found good ways to document processes. Because what happens, a lot of small businesses, is they, you accumulate, the next thing you have 10, 15 employees after you've been in business a while, and things get bottlenecked, things don't work right because there's no clear process about this is how we do whatever the function is.
Makes sense. I'm sure there are a lot of people who have gone through that journey, helping small businesses and having experience with large companies, but not all of them going to go create a company like you did, right? So what was the pivotal moment for you to decide, okay, here's really a gap in the marketplace and I can really create value for small businesses in terms of educating them?
It was about 1987 that I had several businesses that had hired me part-time in addition to my regular job. They were paying me as a consultant. And so eventually I said, I'm gonna make this a go. I'm gonna make it a full-time thing. And just started acquiring clients generally by word of mouth. I really don't know anything about marketing per se. I'm working with people now, but pretty much all the clients I've gotten over time has been through word of mouth referrals. People like what I do, so.
Great. Can you talk about how you started initially? Did it kind of start part-time and then you gradually transitioned to basically doing this full-time?
Right, yeah, I was working with someone full-time. I was working with several businesses part-time as a consultant, and the demand kept growing. So at some point, I quit my full-time job, retained that company as a client, and had all the other companies and grew it into a full-time practice.
Okay, and like you said, that a lot of the businesses just sort of came organically through word of mouth.
Yes,
but where were those connections built? How did the word of mouth?
Well, it's just, a lot of small business owners know other small business owners,
yeah.
especially in the same industry. And
Right.
so they hear somebody saying, man, I'm struggling with whatever, and say, hey, why don't you call Cary? He's helped me a lot. And the longer it's gone, the more I've been able to refine what I can do for people, like make finer and finer distinctions, which helps them to make bigger and better moves. The whole creation of the dashboards back in the late 90s, I think, where they had a good idea of what cash flow looked like over the next 6 to 10 weeks. They could look at their receivables and payable aging every week and see, is anything getting out of whack here? They could look at their sales every week in terms of sales for the week, sales month to date, quarter to date, year to date, and compare that to budget. We're on track, we're off track, we're ahead of things. In other words, if you wait until most businesses do it this way, they get their financial statements on the 20th of the month that the financial statements are for. Right. Well, on the 20th of next month, there's nothing you do about this month. It's over. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're getting data during the month, you see, hey, sales are off. You can actually, call some clients. You can check with your sales department. Is it a billing problem? Is there something with customers dissatisfaction? Is the market just off? Find out what's going on and what can you do about it. Same thing with receivables and payables as they age. Here's a what do you want to call it? Adage I like to tell clients: the older receivable becomes, the less likely it is to be collected. So you don't want your receivables getting very old. And if there's going to be a problem with somebody going bankrupt or not paying you, or just whatever, you want to get ahead of it as soon as possible and collect whatever you can. If you can get your goods back, whatever, work out something with the other business that's not paying you. So, if you find out 3 months that they filed bankruptcy a couple of months ago, there's nothing you can do about it. Your money, kiss your money goodbye.
Yeah.
So, so it's about having actionable financial data rather than numbers that can tell you something about what happened last month, but nothing you can do about it. That makes sense?
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. That's great. I'm sure that's very helpful for small business owners or for anybody, any type of business.
Yeah.
But that dashboard that you were mentioning, did you develop that or was that existing?
Yeah, I mean, yes. People ask me all the time, do you use any software for the dashboards? And I know there are some out there. No, I don't use those. I've created everything on Excel spreadsheets. Just because I know it's data that businesses need to look at. And again, depending on the business, a manufacturer is going to want to know about reduction of cost reduction, right? And they want to see it every cycle. What are your cost reduction? Construction firms want to see what work in process looks like. Are you overbilled, underbilled? People who say wholesalers, they want to look at inventory. You have any old inventory? We have any dead money, with what I call dead money. If you're turning your inventory, let's just say 4 times a year, but you have, say, 10% of your inventory that didn't even turn once that year, that's pretty much dead money. Discount it, sell it, get your cash back out, put it back into things that are turning faster.
And the dashboard, it sounds like it's a spreadsheet, but the source data comes from some software, I would imagine, right? Accounting tool.
Yeah, I mean, so you have one spreadsheet for your cash projection, what it look like over the next 6-10 weeks, and it's week by week by week. Receivables and payables you can put on the same page. Your taxes, you can put all that in a workbook, really, but you want to make sure your sales taxes, your payroll taxes, income taxes, property tax, all those taxes are not only being filed but paid. Because generally, if there's going to be a tax problem, the owner is the last one to know about it. The owner finds out there's a tax problem when the tax man shows up and says, "I need a check for 6 figures."
Right.
So yes, but you want to make sure the dashboards get to the owner and the leadership team, and that could be just 1 or 2 people every day, the same, every day of the week, the same. Like get them every Friday or every Monday. I like to see them Friday. You can kind of look back and see what's happened. And you can see, why do we call them dashboards? Well, it's like the dashboard on your car, right? For the most part, you don't pay attention to it much. You might look at your speed, you might look at your gas gauge every now and then. For the most part, you don't pay attention to your dashboard until it starts flashing there's a problem. Your engine's overheating, your battery's not charging, you're about to run out of gas, whatever, that, engine light comes on. So that's what the dashboard is supposed to do for the owner, so that the owner is not spending his or her time in the day-to-dayness of their business. That's a problem with a lot of business owners, is they get so wrapped up in the business that they spend all their time working in the business rather than working on the business.
Yeah.
So that's what a dashboard is supposed to do. The business dashboard is supposed to do. So, you got a problem with sales, you got a problem with receivables, you got a problem with taxes, you got a problem with whatever. And again, by the time you get the dashboards, whoever's on your leadership team, there should be somebody who's responsible and aware of the problem and already has a solution in place, right?
Yeah, ideally.
The thing I get from business owners the most about the dashboards, it provides so much peace of mind. Because what they say, I'm trusting that all this stuff is happening. I'm trusting that accounting is keeping on track with all this. Well, people in accounting don't care about your business like you do, right? And here's the other thing in business: the more you observe something and track it, the better it performs. So if you're having a problem with something like cash flow, well, get your cash flow. You got a projection for your cash flow. Sales aren't going well. Pay attention to the sales activity, right? It's going to improve. So it makes some people accountable. And it shows that they're actually looking at things and presenting it to the owner in a way that the owner can do something about it.
What kind of knowledge and experience enabled you to create this dashboard? It sounds very useful, and I would hope something is available like that for personal finance even.
Again, what I had experienced is, financial, and for some business owners, they get financial statements maybe every 6 months. They're like several months behind. Well, you're flying blind. They might check and see what was sales or what's cash in the bank, but they really don't have a good feel for what's going on in their business. So I saw that financial statements in and of themselves were inadequate because it's always about last month. And that's traditionally what accounting is about. It's like, last month you did this. Here's your tax return for last year. Everything's always about the past, what's already done. And again, I remember being in school, and when I first got out of school, I was told consistently, a good accountant is a good scorekeeper. Well, okay, but that's about what's already happened. Owners need help with what's going forward. What can I do to improve things going forward? What strategic moves can I make? What needs improvement? So when I saw that the financial statements were always pointing back, I said I need to give them something that they can look at to see what's going on now. So that's when I started developing some cash boards with the cash flow, cash rejections, sales, taxes. Yeah, the whole peace of mind thing is like, before these dashboards, what owners have told me is like, I'd wake up at 2 a.m. I'm wondering, are they paying a payroll tax? But they were too scared to go ask. They might find out, no, they haven't been paying it. Or how's sales doing this month? I don't really know. Well, with the dashboards, you know exactly what's going on. It allows the business owner to manage the business from what I call a 10,000-foot level, rather than they're spending a half a day looking at receivables and who's not paying and what have you, or looking at shipping or inventory or any of that stuff. The two main jobs a business owner has is to be the visionary of the firm, see what opportunities out there that they can take advantage of, as well as what perils or what risks are out there that they need to navigate around or mitigate. And the other job is to be the main revenue generator. I mean, that's the two things that got them in business to start with, right? They saw they could generate revenue and make money for themselves more than just, getting paid a commission from the employer. And number two, they had a vision about how it all looked, right? So that's where they need to focus. They're not trained in accounting. They're not trained in shipping. They're not trained in inventory management. They're not trained in warehouse or all that other stuff. They're not trained in that. And yet it's because it's their business and they're the owner. They think they should get in there and at first they have to do everything because it's just them. But what they get addicted to is having things done my way. I want things done my way. And that owner's way is generally not that good because, again, they're not trained in it. They're not trained to do all that stuff. Hire somebody who knows what they're doing. Tell them what results you want to see as specifically as you can, and in what time frame, and have them produce it. Or not. If you don't produce, find somebody else. But the clearer the owner can be about what results they want, and have that communicated out to the people who are working there, at least its leadership team, and then get out of the way. That's the only what's going to work best.
Yeah. How do you usually kind of help these business owners to kind of overcome that, right? So the challenges that you mentioned, right? They probably were initially very hands-on, but at some point they need to step away and look at it from a 10,000-foot level.
Yes.
How do you usually help them with transitioning?
Right. My saying for clients is, until you step back, they will not be able to step up. Your employees can't step up until you step back. So again, number one, it's sometimes painful to point out that you're not a good manager. Yes, you may own the business. Yes, you started the business. Yes, you're a great entrepreneur, but because you're a great entrepreneur, your skill set is diametrically opposed to what it takes to be a good manager. What's a good manager? If you meet a good manager, you know what they want? They want consistent, repeatable, just boring results. Just keep going. Owners, they want to try this and try that. And what about this? And what about that? Oh yeah, look, great idea. And they're all over the place. And here's the other thing with owners, they have a different solution depending on the day and how they're feeling to the same problem, right? So they're really not good managers. So when you can point that out to them, that you're really not that good of a manager, because most business owners, if they had to sit there and create the same results over and over again, just constantly all day. I was with one in Florida a few weeks ago, and he said, "Oh man, if I had to do that, I'd kill myself." I know, because you're an entrepreneur, because you're all over the board.
Right.
You can't sit still that long. I mean, he has trouble sitting in a meeting for an hour. He starts getting antsy and playing with his phone, and they got to move.
Yep.
So number one, you're not a good manager, right?
Mhm.
Number two, your most valuable contribution to the business is your visionary skills and primary revenue generator, right? So
Mhm.
again, that we need to get you focused on that. And number three, how do you get your people to produce the results you want? You got to be really, really, really clear on exactly what results you want produced. Like I want my receivables, the average aging of my receivables, I don't want them any longer than 45 days. That doesn't mean you have receivables older than that, but the average aging is say 45 days. Or I don't want to see more than say 10% of my receivables go over 60 days. That's a kind of, when you start giving them details like that. And at first, if you've been in the day-to-day having your fingers in everything, at first they're not going to trust you. They're going to think you're going to, something's going to go wrong, the boss is going to come around and jump in it. You have to stay out no matter what. And if somebody makes a mistake, and I promise they will, there are going to be mistakes made. When the mistake is made, use it as a learning opportunity. Use it as an opportunity to educate people. What happened, what was missing, what was a breakdown, what didn't we see, or what happened that we weren't anticipating? How did this negative outcome happen? And how do we fix it? And what can we learn from it? And how do we make sure it doesn't happen again? And then empower your people to learn, all right, rather than you having to, because if you keep stepping in, guess what? They'll never take it on full time. They'll never take it on if you keep stepping in. So yes, it is a process. It takes time. It's not something you do overnight. And that's, business. How can I just turn everything over to these people? I can't trust them to, turn out the lights at night. Well, it's going to take time because you train them to be that way, number one. And you have to train yourself to not automatically just step in. So yeah, it's a process. It takes 3 months, 6 months, maybe, depends. Every situation is different. But at some point, the owner gains confidence that yes, his leadership team can manage the business without him or her. So they can go focus. And you know what happens what happens is all of a sudden they start making a lot more money. You know why? Because they're focusing on visionary things and being the primary revenue generator. So
Yeah.
business starts selling a lot more, making more money.
Yeah.
And now the owner is not trapped and having to work 80 to 100 hours a week, can take a few weeks off at a time if they want to. And they get their weekly dashboards and they meet with their leadership team and they can just make sure the business is still running right, make sure no warning signs are going off. Everything's fine.
Very good. Very good. A lot of gold in there. So it sounds like this is the concept that you had called systemizing success.
Yes.
Is that it, or is there more to it? Can you elaborate on that concept?
Yeah. Again, dysfunctions in most small businesses are because the business owner is involved, right? And they're insisting on my way. There is no, this is the process. This is not, like a recipe. Let me give you a couple of examples. How you can take a handful of teenagers and have them run a fast food restaurant. Because everybody, it's all written out. Everybody knows how to make the fries. Everybody knows how to make the Royale with cheese. Everybody knows how to make the hot apple pie, whatever. It's all written. It's real clear. Follow these steps and you'll be successful. A better example, think of the deck of an aircraft carrier, right? Launching military aircraft, retrieving them. They've got the decks that go up and down, fueling them, putting weapons on, taking the weapons off. And most of the people on the flight deck of the deck of an aircraft carrier are 18 to 20 years old. Think of what most 18 to 20-year-olds are involved now. I mean, most of them, they're on their phone all the time and they're playing a game or something. I mean, I've seen young couples text each other across the table at a restaurant.
Yeah.
Anyway, so if you have this, most of the people on the deck of an aircraft carrier, 18 to 20 years old, how is it they perform all these launching planes, receiving planes with military precision? It's like, it's got to be exact. There's no God. They all know their job. They all know everybody else's job because they drill. They know it, and they can do it in their sleep. Same thing. There's a process. Everybody follows it. In a business, if you have, let's say the owner starts and the owner has to take care of bookkeeping, or the owner has to take care of whatever, invoicing, and then he hires a couple of people, or she hires a couple of people, and they start doing their jobs. But the business owner's going to want to make sure things being done the way he knows how they work, right? So you add a few more people, and next thing you know, the owner's in everything, because it's here's the analogy I like to use. It's like their baby, right? They love their baby. They created it. It's a big part of their identity. And it's hard for them to trust other people to take care of their baby the way they would, right? Even though they don't always know how to take care of the baby that well. So for them to turn over their baby, they have to know that you're going to take excellent care of it because they have too much of their life tied up in it. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So the best way to do that is to have a process that produces consistent results, which is again antithetical to what an entrepreneur does. They don't do the consistent results. That makes them crazy. They want it, they're all over the place. They want to try something new, and how about this and how about that? So you have to demonstrate to the owner that yes, this process works. It's going to produce consistent results. You don't have to fool with it anymore.
Yeah, that's excellent. You also have this phrase called your employees don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Because I've always heard, hiring your first employee or in general, having employees is the most difficult step, being an entrepreneur, because it is really hard to find good people and train them and retain them. So I feel like that phrase that you had makes a lot of sense. Can you elaborate on what you mean?
Sure. Yeah. What that points at is this whole issue of trust, right? Trust is essential for all human interaction. I mean, if you thought I was some kind of homicidal axe murderer, you wouldn't be in the same room with me. You wouldn't be in the same building with me, right? Because you'd absolutely not trust me to not hurt you.
Right.
So with employees and employers, the traditional model of that relationship is very transactional. I show up and I do certain things, I perform certain tasks in such as, in these hours at your place of business, and every payday you pay me. All right. Okay, so I trust you to come in and do your work for the most part, and I trust you're going to pay me when it's payday. That only gets so far. George Carlin had a thing in one of his bits where he said, most people work just hard enough to not get fired, and they make just enough money to not quit. And that is truly the vast, vast majority of the workforce out there today. So this whole thing of trust is, how do you get people to trust you more than that, to where they're going to want to step up, they're going to make the extra effort, they're going to want to make sure the business succeeds because they're following you, not just they're there as a mercenary to get paid. So one of the first, there are four elements of trust that in the way that I've learned it, right? The first one is care. Do you care about me, my concerns, the way you care about your concerns? That's where that comes from. They don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So you have to, here's some questions I ask business owners, new clients all the time. How often do you talk to employees? Well, I talk to them every day. What are you talking about? Make sure they're doing their job. You ever ask them, do they need anything else to help do their job? Do they need any training? You ever ask them about their family? Do you ever ask them about their hobbies, their health? Do you even know what their hobbies are? Do you even know if they're married? So having conversation, again, some companies, the owner's got 200 employees. There's no way you can do it with 200 employees, but you can do it with your leadership team and teach them to do it and mentor them to do it with their director, where you have a culture of people caring about the people that work there. And so when you get that, that is the basic, to me, that's one of the foundations of trust. The others are sincerity. Do you mean what you say? Next is competence. Are you competent to do what you say you can do? And are you reliable? Do you have a history of keeping your promises? And business express reliability in all kinds of ways. McDonald's says billions and billions served, right? It doesn't mean they have a great hamburger. It means they're very consistent producing hamburgers. No matter where you go, you'll get the same mediocre hamburger around the world. Some businesses say established and they put, 1892. Well, that tells you we've been in business a long time. We're very reliable. What looks funny is if you had a business that established 2024, that would look silly. What are you trying to say, that you're brand new? I'm not impressed. So yeah, those things. So if an owner can demonstrate that, number one, they do care about the employees by finding out, what else do you need, by making sure they understand the vision, what's the company's all about, by being sincere in dealing with their employees, and by being competent. In other words, not only am I going to pay you and may pay you well, come up with a bonus program. And a lot of people, I don't want big salaries. I'm not saying big salaries. Big salaries generally foster some entitlement, right? But make them earn it in the form of a bonus. And show that you're reliable over time. And yeah, you're going to attract the right people, and you're going to repel the people that really don't want that kind of relationship. And again, there are other tools to help hire the right people. The predictive index is one that I use. It's a 5-6 minute test, and it gives you some amazing results in terms of the assessment of how that person is going to show up and work, what their strengths are.
You know, a lot of what you were saying reminds me of this book. The title is escaping me, but the phrase I use, work on the business, not in the business. And the example of McDonald's, you know the book I'm talking about?
E-Myth?
E-Myth, yes.
E-Myth
Yes.
Revisited, yes.
Right, yeah.
That's a book I read back in the 90s that got me into documenting systems.
Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Because
So
they're all about documenting systems.
yeah, absolutely. Would you say what you're helping with are mostly small, medium-sized businesses?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, bigger businesses, they can afford their own full-time CFO, their own whatever people. I mean, I'd be happy to work with bigger businesses, especially like in leadership coaching, executive coaching, that kind of thing. But in terms of probably financial statement interpretation, I'm sure they probably have dashboards. You start generating 50 million a year or better, you're going to be able to hire some financial horsepower.
Yeah, that makes sense. So then for that level of businesses, what are some of the typical challenges that you see?
You can be well-intended and want to do all this stuff, but again, it's a matter of, do you have the money to do it? Do you have the money to hire a manager, to actually manage for you? So there's some financial constraints to the really smaller businesses. But as they grow and you actually can hire some managers, the hard part is getting the owner to just back off. Again, because it's, this is my business, it's my livelihood, this is my retirement money. I'm not just going to trust it to a bunch of people that haven't demonstrated they can do anything for me. It's okay. So have you been clear about what you want, specifically in detail? Go through that whole process.
Yeah. So for yourself, are you solo entrepreneur or do you have employees?
I have some what do you call virtual assistants.
Okay.
With that in India and the Philippines.
Oh.
But in terms of in the States, I'm it.
I see. And did you apply, the principles that we talked about, like, basically leveraging other people and then with you only focusing on the most value adding aspect?
Yeah, I mean, I try to be real careful that when mistakes are made, that we use them as learning opportunities rather than, what typically happens in a small business when somebody makes a mistake, especially like a kind of big mistake. Usually what the owner does is like hang somebody and then I'll ask what happened. Execute the person who made the mistake and then we're going to ask what happened. So what you're showing everybody else is make a mistake. They're not going to ask you what happened. They're not going to care what happened. You'll get fired. You'll get demoted. You'll get screamed at or whatever it is. And then they'll find out what happened and, they'll blame some more people for that.
Yeah.
So there's no learning that takes place in that. The only thing people learn is, again, not to trust you. You're not to be trusted. You don't care because you jump in everybody. You're blaming people rather than finding out what happened first.
Yeah. And then do you have any other sort of lessons about, financial management and leadership?
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up leadership because leadership is what entrepreneurs need to learn to do. If you can lead, not manage, are different things. Management and leadership are two different things. Everybody talks about, I want to take my business to the next level. I want to take my business to the next level. Well, you're not a good manager. You can't manage your business to the next level. And generally, most business managers are not going to try and push to get to the next level because there's a risk involved. And good managers are risk averse. But as a business owner, you need to be a leader that has the vision that you can enroll people to follow you to the next level. So the next level is going to be even more where you're not fooling with the day-to-day business. You're even more just visionary and primary revenue generator. And you have a good management team that runs the business for you. But it takes it takes learning. I mean, it takes, what's the word I'm looking for here? It takes work to become a good leader. You know, they say good leaders are born. I know anybody can learn to be a good leader. Some people are more naturally inclined to do that than others. The thing about being a good leader is having a really good vision, one that's going to attract other people to want to join you, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what entrepreneurs are generally good at, having a vision.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. All right, so two more questions for you. Do you have
Sure.
any book recommendation for the
Any book
listeners?
recommendations? Yes. I'm looking for it.
Besides
This
E-Myth,
is
which is a
one.
great book.
This is one.
Okay.
Dream Teams. This is written by the people that started Predictive Index. It's all about how to find the right people for the right jobs. There's another one, but have you ever heard of EOS, Entrepreneurial Operating System?
I think so, yeah.
There's a probably their foundational book. It's called Traction.
Yes.
Traction, great book.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to know how to be a good boss, there's another book from the EOS library called How to Be a Great Boss.
Okay.
Right,
That
another
was
good
great
read.
telling.
Yeah. For entrepreneurs, I would recommend those for sure. Those three.
Okay, excellent. And last question, where can people find more about you?
Probably my website. And again, you mentioned CFO Consulting beginning. I changed the name of the company this year to Strategic Business Advisors, right?
Oh, okay.
So the website is strategicbusinessadvisors.org, O-R-G. All one word, strategicbusinessadvisors.org. You can see more about what we do. There's a little bio on me that you can schedule an appointment with me. There's some testimonials from some clients on there. There's some podcasts that I've been on. You can take a look at, find out more about the company, more about me. And I'd encourage you to schedule a free consultation and see if there's anything I can do to help you.
Yeah. And usually it's kind of small business owners, medium size maybe, that would really benefit from your service, right? It sounds like.
Yeah. Small to medium-sized business owners. Here's people ask me all the time, what's your ideal client? My ideal client is a small to medium-sized business owner that's frustrated. They don't understand why their employees, quote, don't get it. They're having to work 80 to 100 hours a week just to keep things going. They can't take off extended periods of time or the business will implode without them. They're always struggling with, they're always putting out fires every day. They kind of dread to go to work sometimes because they're wondering what hot mess is going to get dumped in their lap that day. They're constantly surprised. They're frustrated by cash flow because every time they seem to be getting ahead, something comes along and, puts them behind again. So people who are frustrated with owning their business and running their business, those are my ideal clients. In other words, if you've been suffering enough and you're ready for a change, call me, contact me. The people who've been suffering, if you're not suffering, you're probably keeping a very small game, or you have a good management team taking care of your business. But it's for the business owners that are suffering, managing their business, running their business, those are my ideal clients.
Yeah. That sounds like music to some people's ears. I'm sure there are a lot of struggling entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Are you on social media as well? LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. I have an account on Facebook and one on Instagram for CFO Consulting, which I'm getting ready to change to Strategic Business Advisors. But most of my stuff is either on my website or my profile on LinkedIn.
Okay, excellent. I'll link them in the show notes.
All right.
Great. Thank you so much, Cary, for coming on the show. It's great.
Thank you, Handy.
Learned a
Great
lot
being
from you.
here. Enjoyed the conversation.